Hi, my name is Daniel and welcome to the Unquendor Guitars workshop and another video in this series where I'm building a tribute to my Westone Pantera X390. In this video I'm going to put all this hardware into this guitar, and hopefully by the end of this video I have a playable instrument so I can give you guys a little demo. The first thing I'm going to do is address the fretboard and the frets for the last time. So I'm going to start with putting some fretboard oil onto the fretboard and buff it out as best as I can, and then address the frets using a polishing kit and really shine up the frets for the last time. After polishing the frets and installing the nut, I'm going to install these Schaller locking tuners. It's pretty straightforward because they're secured into place, not with a little pin but with a screw, so I can just insert them into a hole and use the bush to temporarily fix them in place, align them all and then secure them with the little screw. But first I'm going to use my stepper drill to clean some of the lacquer from these holes so I can fit the tuners in more easy. So very carefully I'm going to scrape away some of the paint inside the tuner holes. So I can stick in the tuner. Like so. Always use proper fitting tools to secure your hardware. I can use a straight edge to align the tuners to the best of my ability. They're already in pretty aligned. And now use a little drill and drill these tiny holes to keep the tuners in place. To mark these tiny holes, dead center, so I'm sure the tuner won't move. I'm using a small drill bit that barely fits the hole, just to mark the center where I need to drill the hole for this tiny little screw. Now that all the centers are marked, I can follow up with an insanely sharp awl. And now with all the centers marked, I'm going to use a tiny little hand drill and drill these holes for this little screw. Time to fit the posts for the bridge, and they're a bit tighter than I would have liked. But they're going in quite well, and because I always leave as much material as possible at the gap side of the cavity, so to say, I'm not worried about tearing through the piece of wood right here. So let's fit the bridge and see if I need to change out this block. I think it might be too long. So the bridge in nice and flush with the top of the guitar. This is the way it's intended. Now let's take a look at the back, and I hope this shows up on camera. And yeah, I can already see that this block would hit the cover plate once it's in, and I want to install a cover plate. I think that just finishes off the guitar and looks more professional than leaving a gap at the back of the guitar. So let's change this block from a 37mm into a 32mm, and this should give me enough room to fit the springs and fit the cavity cover. Swapping out the taller block from this bridge for a shorter one isn't that difficult. The only thing it requires is to disassemble the entire bridge, unfortunately. I've changed the block on the back of the bridge, and let's do a test fit and see if it clears the control plate or the cover plate, which it should, so that's fine. But now I'm having a bit of a dilemma what to do first. Ideally I would install the pickups first, but in order to do so I need to figure out what kind of pickup ring I can use. Can I use these Schalers that are very nice metal pickup rings, but they're at a 2-degree angle, they have a 2-degree slant, and I don't know if when this guitar is stringed up the strings will have the same angle, so the pickups will be parallel to the strings. Yeah, I think what I need to do is install the bridge, put 2 strings on, figure out what pickup ring I can use, and go from there. And before anyone starts screaming that I should direct mount my pickups, it's much better, it looks cleaner, etc, etc, please stop and don't bother typing any comments like those, because I personally don't like direct mounted pickups for several reasons. One of them is they're a gathering place of dust and debris, and in general I don't like the look of being able to look into the mounting positions and such. So it's a personal preference. I don't like direct mounted pickups, so this guitar, like the original, will have pickup rings. So the first thing I need to do to install the bridge is of course fit the spring claw. Use an awl and mark the center of these holes. And I can very accurately drill these holes. I usually don't recommend using power tools on the screws for guitar hardware because the screws tend to be very soft and yeah, they tend to get destroyed very easily by a power tool. For these spring claw screws I make the exception because they tend to go in not as easy, and by using a drill bit I can go back and forward ever so slightly, so I create a kind of thread where the screw goes in but still has enough purchase to don't strip out. And by creating this thread it makes it very easy later on to use a regular screwdriver and adjust the spring tension. Go back and forth. Something like that. I now just realized I recorded an entire section with the mic turned off. So what I've installed a single spring on the back of the bridge, then flipped the guitar around and used some regular playing cards to fix the tremolo in place. And now I'm going to install the high and low E string, and of course I'm using Elixir 09 to 46 set. I've already got the bass string, the low E, in hand. First thing I'm going to do is nip off the ball end and install this string in the bridge in one end. Make sure it's all the way in. Tighten it. And now the benefit of locking tuners, even with a locking nut. Just the ease by which you can put on some new strings. Tension the string by hand, tighten the locking tuner, and done, one string on. Hopefully this shows up on camera, but this illustrates what I meant by the different pickup rings. I've got my two strings on right now and they're fairly close to the final setup. And as you can see, hopefully they are running parallel to the top of this guitar. And with this pickup ring, which is the shallow one, this one is on an angle and this one is straight flat. And as you can see, the angled one, the slanted one, comes very close to the strings. And it looks a bit weird in my opinion. So I think I'm gonna go with my regular straight flat pickup rings. I've taken off the strings again and now I can insert the pickups. I've mounted them on the mounting rings. Starting with the neck pickup, and try to feed through all the wires. I'm a bit worried about scratching the paint. With the pickup screws, but here we go. With the pickups in, I can now fix the pickup rings. And of course I'm going to align them first. 16 millimeters from the side of the neck on each side, approximately. Yep. And something I started doing recently is using a drill bit that just precisely fits the mounting hole to mark the centers. And this way I know that the little point inside the hole is the exact center before I use them all and punch a tiny hole. Like so, and now I can drill a hole and put in a tiny little screw. So drill the hole. And put in a tiny black screw. And to align the bridge humbucker, I'm going to use one edge of the pickup ring for the neck pickup and see if everything somewhat aligns. And then first I'm going to drill a single hole in one of the corners, then align everything, do the opposite corner before doing all four. And with the two strings attached and the stack of cards still underneath the bridge, I can install all the springs. And this is just to stabilize everything. And the tension is just temporary. I can set them once all the strings are on. Time to move on to the electronics. The things I'm going to use are, of course, two push-pull pots to be used as a tone pot. One regular pot, and all these pots are supplied with the Fishman Pickups. Of course, two capacitors, a three-way switch, output jack, and a Fishman Fluence battery pack. First thing I need to do is prepare these tone pots by fixing one of the capacitors in place and make sure the soldering iron is nice and hot, and I have a tutorial on my channel in which I explain soldering in more detail. I'm connecting these center connectors for the switching part with a bare wire. It's just single core bare wire, pre-tinned, and I can bend it also to the pot itself and make a connection there. And here we go. I can now use this little jig which is upside down, so the holes are as seen from the control cavity. So this is the right side up, so it's upside down. So I can install all these pots like the volume pot, two tone pots, and the three-way switch, and the layout is exactly like it would be on the guitar. So now I can make all the connections except for the output jack and the pickups themselves, and then I can take this entire wire harness to the guitar and install it and do the last connections. I'm not going into much detail about the wiring diagram, and there's plenty of information available on the Fishman website. Also, I have an in-depth tutorial on my channel already, of which I will leave a link on screen and in the video description down below. And I'm thinking about doing an in-depth tutorial on guitar wiring in the near future. So let's start wiring up these pots. The wire harness is done, and now I can take the pots from the template and put them into the guitar and start connecting all the wires coming from the pickups. One last step for the electronics. Here's the cover plate, and here's the module, the USB module for the Fishman battery pack. It's going on like so, and it has double-sided tape, so very carefully I can remove the protective sheet over the tape. It needs to go on like so. There's a connection right here I have to keep in mind. It's for this connector, so it has to go on like so. Only one shot, straight and down. And the adhesive is incredible. I've done several like this and I never had it dropping off when inserting the USB. So the only thing I wished Fishman did was cover these electronics up. But hey, they didn't. So now with the control module, the USB port on the cover plate, I can connect all the connectors, screw this in place and finish up the guitar. All the electronics are in and I hope they're good and they all work. So now I can put on the final 4 strings. I can see, however, a little icon flashing on that little screen over there telling me the battery once again is empty, and I had another battery, it was also empty. So what I'm going to do off camera, I'm going to put on some strings, and I think you've seen me put strings on guitars before, and I'm sure you know how to put strings on a guitar, nothing new here. So off camera I'm going to put on the rest of the strings and recharge all the batteries, and I'll be back for final tuning and setup of this guitar. Yeah, off camera I put on all the strings, stretched the strings and made sure the neck is nice and straight. It has a slight cup as supposed to, as you should, and of course I used a block of wood to block off the tremolo. I've loosened the springs ever so slightly that the block was clamped in place, and the bridge is now nicely parallel with the body. Now this allows me to set up this guitar if it was a fixed bridge. So now that the string height is correct, I've got a nice low action, just a millimeter at the high E and 1.2 millimeters for the low E, measured from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string. So extremely low action, and as far as I know, no buzz as of yet. So now the only thing to do is set the intonation, and retension the springs on the back of the guitar until the block falls out, and this should give me the perfect setup for this guitar. A quick tip on setting up a Floyd Rose tremolo besides blocking the tremolo: if you can, set the intonation by eye. Intonating a flat intonation, so moving the saddle forward, is much easier than pushing it back. So I only have to move them slightly forward, so intonating this will be super easy. And of course a scary bit, drilling the hole for the strap lock. Now the guitar is almost ready for test playing. Just 2 more finishing touches. First, of course, the whammy bar or tremolo arm, and of course some of these Schaller speed knobs. So here's a little tip: use a business card with a slot cutout. I use it to set the spacing, the distance for these knobs. Maybe one day I'll lower these 2 pots so ever so slightly, so there's less a gap underneath the control knobs, but yeah, for now it's perfect. Yeah, having a high gloss finish guitar is nice, but I keep polishing away and wiping off fingerprints and little specks. But yeah, I have a finished guitar, and to know how she sounds, and I think everyone's anxious on what this guitar sounds like, I have to go in to the house, to my studio, and give you guys a little demo. Yeah guys, we're inside to do a little demo, but before we start I have to say, keep in mind I'm not a great guitar player, far from it, to be honest. I practice way too little. I hardly play any guitars these days, and that's why I often don't include any demos on the end of build videos, but by popular demand I tried let's do it for this guitar anyway. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly run through some of the sounds on this guitar using a Boss Container 50 because I think most of you will be familiar with how the Boss sounds. I've set everything to 12 o'clock except for delay and reverb. I add those in to taste when necessary. I'm running everything to a Sennheiser E906 mic into a Focusrite iTrack Solo, and it records into GarageBand right here on my phone. So it's a nice little portable studio setup, and of course I mix in some camera audio as well, coming from a Rode shotgun mic that's on top of the camera. So yeah, let's start with some cleans. I'm starting with the bridge pickup in the first voicing of these Fishman Tosin Abashi signature pickups, and I'm just going to strum some chords. Second voice. And coil split or single coil mode. And neck pickup, same chords, starting in voice 1. Voice 2. Voice 2 is a bit fuller and more round, I think. It's what I'm hearing. Anyways, single coil mode on the neck pickup. I really like how this guitar sounds and the different voices. The 3 different voices in combination with a 3-way switch gives us 9 possibilities on a single guitar, and I think that's absolutely amazing. And with these Tosin Abashi signature sets, I really like the single coil mode, and that's although I'm not a huge fan of the sound of single coils usually. But I really like, especially the highs, you can hear a single coil instead of a split humbucker. At least that's my opinion. So, and let's take a listen to some driven tones, and I'm going to switch to the crunch channel. Voice 1, of course, switch to 2. Single coil. Neck pickup. Voice 2. and single coil. And now let's go into the more heavy stuff. Let's switch to lead. What I like to do on this channel is add a bit of booster. And to get in the real heavy stuff. And of course I can dial in some reverb, some delay, and this brings us of course in the lead tones. And of course when I switch to the neck pickup and the second voicing, it should start sounding more melodic. And the guitar has a ton of sustain. So yeah, I hope you liked this short little demo on the Westone Pantera tribute build. And if you did, let me know by leaving a like. If any questions, comments, suggestions, let me know in the comment section down below. If you like to support me even more, check out the Unquendor Guitars merchandise underneath the video. I really would appreciate if you got yourself a nice t-shirt or a hoodie or something. Or you can even support me more directly if you want by hitting the super thanks or the thank you button underneath this video. That way you can make a small donation to the Unquendor Guitars YouTube channel, and that allows me to buy more gear and keep making videos essentially. And when you leave a super thanks and when you do a donation and you have any questions or comments, I'll guarantee you I'll be responding to that question or comment. So yeah, if you like to support me, hit that button, hit me up and let me know you're supporting this channel. So yeah, that's it for this week's video. But before we go, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope you have lovely holidays. And I hope to see you all, of course, in the new year with a new guitar build. But until then, have a nice week.